Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the really fascinating world of vintage radio-controlled buggies, specifically the Tamiya HotShot family.
Yeah, the classic era.
We've got this burning question from a listener about, well, a very specific piece of plastic, the CRP 30046 Nerf wing.
The Nerf wing. I know it well.
So the big questions are, is it compatible with the Tamiya Super HotShot? And maybe more fundamentally, why should anyone even care about a Nerf wing? Sounds kind of funny.
Right. It does sound a bit odd. But our mission today is to really unpack that. We'll get into the history, the engineering, and honestly, the passion behind these old machines.
It's amazing how one small part can open up so much history.
Exactly. This compatibility question, it's like a little window into a whole era of RC innovation, and that whole aftermarket scene that sprung out.
You're not just going to say yes or no.
Definitely not. We'll dig into why it fits or doesn't, the engineering bits, and like you said, why it actually matters for collectors and people who still run these things.
Okay, let's get into it then. To really understand this wing, we need to understand the cars first, right? The HotShot family.
Precisely. Let's start with the original, the 1985 Tamiya HotShot. Revolutionary for its time.
Tamiya's first shaft-driven 4WD buggy? Yeah. And that iconic look with the monocoque suspension.
Iconic, yes. But it had its quirks. Owners back then knew it had some handling issues, like bump steer.
Right, where the wheels turn themselves when the suspension moves. Not ideal.
Not ideal at all. And that front monoshock, it looked impressive, visually speaking.
But maybe wasn't the best performer?
Let's just say it was known to bottom out pretty easily. More style than substance in practice, maybe. Which, created a real market for upgrades, for hop-up parts.
Ah, the hop-ups. The start of a whole industry, really.
Pretty much. And Tamiya themselves responded just a year later with the Super HotShot.
Which was later re-released as the Super HotShot, the one our listener asked about.
Exactly. And the Super HotShot was essentially Tamiya's own hopped-up HotShot right out of the box.
So it fixed some of those original issues.
It did. Crucially, it had 4 independent oil dampers instead of those monoshocks, plus a beefier motor, full ball bearings, a proper upgrade package.
Okay, so better suspension, more power. But what does that mean for fitting this Nerf wing? Did the core structure change?
And that is the absolute key point here. Despite all those performance upgrades, the fundamental structural parts, the main chassis tub, that ABS monocoque piece.
It's a bathtub frame, basically.
Right. That and the suspension mounting points and critically the integrated roll cage. They all remained identical to the original HotShot.
Identical, even the roll cage.
Even the roll cage. And here's the proof, the real smoking gun, if you like.
Okay.
Tamiya's own parts lists. If you check the part number for the roll cage assembly,
let me guess.
It's the same for the original 85 HotShot and the 2012 Super HotShot re-release, part number 9005163.
Wow. So that shared part is like our Rosetta Stone here. If the Nerf wing mounts to that roll cage.
Then it fits both the HotShot and the Super HotShot. Compatibility confirmed, thanks to that shared DNA.
Okay, that solves the main question. But what is the CRP 346 Nerf wing anyway? CRP, Custom Racing Products.
That's the one, Custom Racing Products, Inc., from Temple City, California. Important to note, this is not the same company as the modern CRP Industries. This is vintage stuff.
And it's called a wing, but you mentioned earlier it's not really about aerodynamics.
Primarily, no. Despite the name, its main job is protection. Think of it like a Nerf bar on a race car, but for an RC buggy.
Ah, okay. So side impact protection.
Exactly. It shields the main chassis tub and, importantly, those vulnerable rear suspension arm pivot points from getting smashed up in crashes or rollovers.
Makes sense. Those old plastics can get brittle.
Very brittle. The wing part of the name. That was probably more about tapping into that 80s high-performance aesthetic, Wings were cool.
Everything needed a wing back then, so is it actually necessary? Do you really need one?
Well, it really depends on what you're doing with the car.
How so?
If you're a collector.
Yeah.
Building a pristine shelf queen that's perfectly period correct, then it's kind of essential for that authentic hop-up look.
It completes the vintage racer vibe.
It really does. But if you're a casual runner, someone who actually drives their vintage buggy,
which is brave given the age.
It is. But for them, I'd say it's highly recommended. Like we said, 35-year-old plastic is fragile. Original chassis tubs are getting rare and expensive.
So the Nerf wing is like practical insurance.
Precisely. It could save you from a costly repair bill after a tumble. It's functional history.
Okay, so let's say you found one maybe on eBay, you track down this rare part. How hard is it to actually install? Is it just a few screws?
Well, here's where it gets interesting again. It's not just a simple bolt-on affair.
Oh.
Installing the CRP 3046 actually requires permanent modification to the chassis.
You have to cut or drill the original car.
We have to drill new holes, yeah, right into that original ABS monocoque tub.
Oof. Drilling into vintage plastic sounds. Nerve-wracking.
It definitely requires care. You'd want to mark it out carefully, use a pin vise that's like a tiny hand drill for control, probably drill pilot holes and step up the size.
And use the right hardware, I guess.
Absolutely. Flange nets are a good idea to help spread the load and prevent cracking the plastic around the new hole.
Any other quirks with fitting it?
Some owners report it can make changing the battery pack a little more tedious. Access gets a bit tighter. Another classic vintage RC charm.
Huh. Okay, so it takes some work. Now, you mentioned finding one. What if you can't find an original, new, old stock one? Those must be getting pricey.
They are. You might see Once ones pop up for, say, $35, $40, maybe more sometimes on eBay. It varies.
So what are the options if you can't find or afford an original?
Thankfully, the spirit of the hop-up lives on today, largely through 3D printing.
Modern solutions for vintage problems.
Exactly. While you might not find a direct STL file of the CRP 346 just floating around publicly.
Or 3D model file, yeah.
Right. But the RC community is full of creative people. There are designers making similar protective parts, maybe even improved versions. You could commission someone to design one, or adapt an existing file.
And what material would you recommend printing it in? Not just standard PLA, I assume, if it's a protection.
Definitely not PLA for a part like this, especially if you're running the car. It's too brittle. You'd want something tougher, like PTG, or for real durability, maybe even getting it professionally printed in SLS nylon.
Stronger stuff for actual impacts.
Much stronger. PTG is a good balance for home printing, but SLS nylon is top tier for functional parts.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, the answer to the listener's question is a definite yes.
A definite yes. The CRP 346 Nerf wing is fully compatible with the Tamiya Super HotShot.
All thanks to that shared chassis and roll cage design, that identical DNA between the HotShot and Super HotShot.
Exactly. And remember, it's less about making it faster, more about adding that layer of side protection. A genuine vintage hop-up.
It really shows how important those aftermarket companies were back then, fixing real-world weak spots.
Absolutely. For collectors, it's about authenticity. For drivers, it's genuinely useful durability, a piece of history that still serves a purpose.
So thinking about this, the need to modify a vintage chassis for protection, but also the rise of 3D printing offering new ways to do it. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Where are you going with this?
Well, I'm thinking about it from the listener's perspective. What other classic RC durability upgrades, maybe parts that were never even made back in the day, could really use a modern revival or even a complete rethink using today's tech, like 3D printing? Something for you to ponder.